It's a new song. It's a new day. It's a new night.
She said,
and I'm feeling good.
Boom.
Hey! I'm dead. Not the baby girl.
Oh, it's a new government.
Ooh, that part. Who's ready to talk about it?
We're talking all about
what you can do to
really have a new day,
and
a new representation that really fits your agenda. So welcome to Gritty Hippie.
Ow.
What? Well, join us as we have thought-provoking conversations with friends you never had but wish you did, as we defy societal norms and cackle over the most taboo. Where should they follow us, Tiff?
Well, you can find us on Instagram at Official Gritty Hippie and everywhere else on the web at Gritty Hippie. And please share this episode with somebody you think might be interested in having the conversation. And please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, because it really does help with amplifying our community.
Yeah, and thumbs up us in Facebook and YouTube.
Everywhere.
All of that.
Thank
you so much for tuning in. We're so excited to speak about this. This is one of the most important episodes.
Yeah, conversations we'll be having ever.
Yeah. To date and even moving forward.
Yeah.
This is a big motivator as to why we even started this.
Oh, yes, it's true.
Yeah. The full disclosure, we're still learning. We're unsure and curious. This is all about social responsibility and civic duties. Some serious stuff.
Back to U.S. history class.
No, fuck U.S. history class, because they did not teach us the thing. They didn't really,
Listen, I was in AP U.S. history for 2 years, and I don't remember shit like that. But
I remember a lot of trash from history class.
Right,
and
because
it was not the type of history that I would have appreciated as a young adult going into the real world, because we're not gonna act like high school students once graduated actually don't go out into the real world. Many of them already are,
and are literally voting after they graduate because 18. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So what's this? Let's
just start with the basics. So what is democracy?
Democracy is a government run by the people. Each citizen has a say or a vote in how the government is run, right? And there's two different type of democracies. There's direct democracy, which is where every citizen votes on all important decisions. But it gets complicated when there's a large population due to the extremely large number in votes. That's why in places like the United States of America, we have what is called a representative democracy or a democratic republic. That means that citizens elect representatives such as the president, members of Congress, and senators to run the government. They're there to represent us because there's just so many of us.
But we elect them.
Right.
Okay. So, what is the Constitution?
The Constitution,
that little book,
is like a fundamental framework of America's system of government. It's set up as a system of check and balances so that no one branch has too much power. Oof. And as you know, we have 3 branches of government.
Right. So the first branch is the legislative branch, which is made of the House and Senate, which is collectively known as Congress. And this branch makes the laws. Mm-hmm. The executive branch, which carries out the laws, consists of the president, their advisor, and various departments and agencies. And finally, the judicial branch, which interprets the laws, consists of the U.S. Supreme Court and Federal Judicial Center.
No, I'm just kidding. Bueno, there are some issues and misconceptions when it comes to democracy. One of those is that only the very wealthy can afford to run for office, therefore leaving the real power in the hands of the rich. But I rebuke that. And I want to give a special shout out to AOC,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
right, for being grassroots. And that means that she actually went around and collected money from the people, right? She's not like funded off of these major corporations because
or lobbies
or lobbyists, because usually when you owe these people favors, and those favors are not in support of the people.
Yes.
Another misconception or issue is that voters are often uninformed and don't understand what they're voting for. This is a
huge one.
Yes, this is part of like us being like, we need you to listen up, and this is important for all of us. Another one is that a two-party system, like in the United States, gives voters few choices on issues. And touche. Yet, and we need to find better ways of making changes, or like just addressing this issue that we're aware of. Because sure, a Democratic Party may not represent you and a Republican Party may not represent you, but when it comes to actually voting, we can't just throw we can't just
completely rely on that
we can
party or person.
We can't think that just by voting a third party we're actually gonna make a change. I think that there's a lot more that needs to be done in order to elevate these other parties.
Yeah, like nobody knows what the Green Party is up to and doing.
And we shouldn't be talking about these third parties at the last minute.
Right. As an alternative to the Democrat and Republican Party.
So also, the large bureaucracy of democracies can be inefficient, and decisions can take a long time. So internal corruption can limit the fairness of elections and the power of the people. That is why it's so important for us to understand who these people are. Right? And then this is really just trickling down into our civic duties.
Civic duty is the principle that citizens have an obligation to serve their society. In return, they receive certain rights and protections. So civic duties can be like jury duty, going to school, and paying taxes.
Citizen participation is a main characteristic of democracy. We must participate in order for it to work. We must understand the issues and vote on them, and we must hold politicians accountable for their promises. The importance of civic engagement is just like for the people and by the people implies that whatever we need must come from us. And the government needs people to step up and take responsibility in order for it to work. So how exactly do we hold politicians accountable? Well, first, we need to know who these people are.
Right.
We need to know who our federal, state, and local elected leaders are.
Everybody.
So our federal elected officials are the president, the vice president, senators, representatives. Our state elected officials are governors, legislators. These are people that make laws. Our local elected officials are our mayors, our county executives, which are like the head of executive branches of government in our county, and city, county, and town officials. Now, we are going to be very clear about this. We're going to share how exactly you can find these people, because there's links for federal, state, and local elected officials. So you can find them wherever it is you live.
Right. Anywhere in the country.
Yes. Secondly, what?
I was gonna say it. That was funny.
Oh.
The whole
bitch
go. Okay. Follow our representatives' voting pattern. So signing up to email alerts or newsletters from our legislators, and follow them on social media, and set reminders to check it throughout the year.
We can also see each bill, which is like a law, and see how our representatives voted at govtrack.us. I'm sure there are other ways for us to see the decision that they took, because this is all public record.
Right.
But, you know, you don't want to be the person, or we just don't want to be the people who are like, oh, yeah, that's my guy. I see him all the time going up and down the block, waving at people, being very engaged in the community. And yet you don't even know that this representative voted against the community.
Right. Exactly. Also, showing up in person to public forums, committee meetings, or speaking events held by representatives shows our local government that we're paying attention. Basically,
Yes.
just staying on their ass so they know that we are watching.
It's just like representation. You can't be mad that nobody's speaking for a minority group, even though I do not like to identify as such. But just saying, you cannot be mad that your voice is not being heard if you're not elevating your voice. You can't be mad that you're not being represented, or that a certain action is being taken and you feel like it's not fair to your community when you're not there to defend your community. And and we just cannot continue to leave that in the hands of anybody else, because people do come to our communities, people do go to these meetings, and they do opinionate and spread their wishes.
Right. And those are the people that are getting heard, because they're the ones that are showing up.
Right, exactly.
So basically show up.
Closed mouths do not get fed. If you don't show up to the table, then nobody's going to be vouching for you.
Just pick up your seat and sit at the table.
So, yes.
Because you deserve.
This is like a very favorite one. Thank you. Another is organize a rally, march, or protest. It's really hard for elected officials to turn a blind eye to that and forget their promises when you got a rally or a march going on.
And finally, use social media to highlight the impact of a policy or shortcoming of your representative. This can be positive or negative.
Yeah. That's dope. Like, I never... Like, there was this one time I was walking in Dykeman, and you know, when it rains, there's a huge puddle that forms at the bottom of
the hill.
Yeah, we call it Snake Hill. And it just pissed me off so much one time, and like I was just like wanting to take a photo of it and tweet, like, what is this? How is my grandmother or anybody supposed to cross the street if like the streets are not paved? There's a legislative process that all legislation goes through.
So, how do we make or change laws? 5 simple steps. So step number 1 is bill introduction. So basically, council members work with the legislation division to craft a bill that is introduced at stated meetings where it is assigned to the appropriate committee.
Yeah.
Step 2 is public hearings. The committee will hold a public hearing on a bill to obtain feedback from the public and other government entities who may be affected by the bill. This results in amendments to the bill. Step 3 is voting. The committee votes on the bill. If the bill passes the committee by majority vote, the bill is then sent to the full council, where it will be considered and voted on at a stated meeting. The bill must again pass by majority vote.
The 4th step would be a presidential decision. After a bill is passed by council, it is presented to the president, who has 10 days to either sign the bill into law, veto the bill, or take no action. Okay. If the president vetoes the bill, it is sent back to council. And if this happens, council can override the president's veto with a majority vote. AKA, nah, we meant it, and this is what our people want us to do. I said what I said. Right? If the president doesn't sign or veto the bill within 10 days, it just becomes a law.
Automatically.
So step 5 is bill becomes law. It's once the bill is signed by the president or its veto has been overridden by council, it's then lit as long as the federal courts don't believe the bill to be unconstitutional.
Awesome. You see, 5 simple steps.
So there's this really cool thing called participatory budgeting. Now we're getting a little bit more into the financing of our government, and this is just one very small aspect of it, but I wanted to shine a light to it. So it's how do we find our budget allocation? So participatory budgeting, or PB, is a democratic process in which community members directly decide how to spend part of a public budget. So, mi gente, my folks, like, there's so much money out here, and it's being spent in so many type of ways. This particular process gives community members a real decision making over more than $35 million in taxpayer money. It enables New York residents to propose and vote on projects in their city council districts. So it's very personal. And the projects that receive the most votes during a 9-day vote week are adopted in the city's fiscal year budget and implemented by city agencies.
So New Yorkers, this is specifically for New Yorkers, so like $35 million in taxpayer money is out here.
And probably more.
You know. It's out here for our benefit, to improve our communities, our parks, our schools. So we have power in the say of where this money goes and is allocated.
Yeah. And it's as simple as just being involved and showing up. Because you could live in a community. Like, you could be in the city district for all your life and have been raised. And if I just moved in here, which, okay, that's fine. But I only got a couple weeks, but I show up to this place and I'm like, you know what? I'd rather this money go to this project versus this project. Meanwhile, you who has lived here for all these years know how important it is for this actual project to pass instead. And it's like, you know, there's certain things that should be prioritized in communities, and those who are part of these communities, who live and raise their children in these communities, we have the responsibility and the duty to put our foot down and to make sure that these projects,
our voices are heard.
Yeah, to make sure that these projects are actually being taken care of, because if you don't, somebody else is gonna go ahead and snatch it.
That part. I also wanted to touch on how to manage political conversation, especially with somebody that doesn't share your point of view, because as we all know, that can get really messy really quick. So for starters, I want to point out that you don't have to engage in political discourse if you don't have the bandwidth for it, whether it's with a friend, family member, or just complete stranger. Like, you don't have to do it.
I respect
Don't get swindled. But if you do choose to engage, keep in mind it's very unlikely that you will change this person's mind, because people really like to be contrarians, and usually people are very set in their ways anyways. All you can really do in that situation, I believe, is just spit facts. Like, just stick to the facts. And if the person is not engaging or actually comprehending what you're saying, then just move on from the conversation, because it's not going to be a productive conversation anyways.
Yeah. It's really important to actively listen, find areas where we agree and share viewpoints, because we do want to get to a consensus.
Resolution.
We want to, like, I feel like when I have conversations with people, even if we're not like eye to eye, I want to at least feel in my heart that we both see each other as human beings, and that we both agree that stop killing black people is not an outrageous demand.
Right.
So also, like, beware of your self-awareness, and establishing like an easy attainable goal when communicating can be helpful when having these like really uncomfortable, you know, conversations where people just usually don't want to be confronted. But remember, we want to use these conversations as an opportunity to share our views, not to convince anyone, as you said, because it's okay to disagree, and it's okay to move on from that and just to find the appropriate time to end the discussion peacefully.
Right.
So how do we get to work and get involved in our communities? Like, what type of things could we do?
Well, I think it's as simple as just even getting to know your neighbors. Like, how long have you lived in that community, in that building, and have you spoken to your neighbors? So I feel like just starting there and building like a close-knit community makes it easier to band together and affect change when something does go wrong within that community.
Snaps.
Yeah. But there's a whole bunch of things you can do. Specifically, we have a list of 76 things.
There's like so many things that you could do, and we really want you guys to look through our descriptions always, because especially for this episode, because there are very helpful links not only on how to find your representatives, but on how you can be more involved in your community. And this goes even for people who are more individualistic.
So, speaking of individualistic, I feel like we live in a very, and I said this last episode too, but if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it. It's about Kwanzaa and it's really fun. I said that we live in a very individualistic society, which is what I think is the biggest problem in this country and just society in the Western world. So it's like basically individualism versus collectivism. So individualism stresses individual goals and the rights of the individual person. A collectivist culture emphasizes the needs and goals of the group as a whole over the needs and desires of each individual. So basically, if people are just like thinking for themselves and doing for themselves, nothing is getting done for the collective good.
Right.
And that's how the government is basically running right now.
It's funny that there's actually examples in this nation of collective groups, and we see how much more prosperous they are generation and generation in.
There's more you can do way more when you're in a group, basically.
Of course, yeah.
But I also feel that we are very leaning towards individualism because we are, as people, desensitized, and we have a defeatist attitude of like, it is what it is, like there's not much I can do.
And that's why I don't vote.
That's why I don't
my
vote.
vote doesn't matter,
right?
But it's like your vote is not just once a year.
It's not just the general or primary elections.
It's just not that. That's really like, we need to be very, very,
if anything, voting locally is even more important than, if I may say.
Yeah, say that shit.
If it's more important because it's gonna affect you. It's gonna affect you directly.
We live in a democratic republic. That means that this is not a direct democracy. So yes, we do have a vote. We do have a voice, but our vote and our voice is like we like injected into these representatives, right? And it's like we have no real knowledge on what they do or what they stand for. We just think that they're like mayors and local community members, and it's like, no, these people are a part of the bigger picture. They're there to represent us. So if we take our communities more seriously, if we take ourselves more seriously and our neighbors more seriously, then we can just stop, take a look around and see, you know what? My neighborhood, the rent prices are way too high. There's no more mom and pop shops. You know what? In my community, I see way too much drug addicts and people who really need help. I see a lack of infrastructure. It's just take a look around in your community and really analyze. You live here.
Yeah.
It shouldn't take for some outsider to come and be like, you know what? This place needs a little cleaning up. And then we're mad about it. It's like, well, you didn't even care. We didn't really care in the first place to go ahead and do anything.
Let yourself be inspired and imagine a world that is better than what it currently is. Your community can be so much better.
You know what this makes me think about? The Dominican protests that happened here in Washington Heights.
Last February, right? In 2020? February 2020?
Was it February?
Girl,
I don't know exactly when it was.
Let's see.
But I know that there was a big protest in Little DR, as they call this now, Washington Heights. And it was a Dominican election protest. And we were protesting basically about the corruption that was happening
February
in the
22nd.
Come on. So,
yes.
You want to say a little bit more about that?
Because I actually attended.
Yeah.
So, like,
why does it matter if you live here in America?
Well,
what does it matter?
It matters because I am Dominican. both of my parents are born and raised in DR. So, and that's just my mother's country. Like, that's my country, like, you know. It matters because, like, it doesn't matter if I don't live there. I'm still gonna be affected. I have family that lives there. It affects me that they're affected, you know. And like the same reason that I fight for other countries that I have no stand on. Like, I've never even visited or been to. Like, I care for people, and I want the people that live in that place to be good. And I don't care.
Eventually, it's gonna happen. Right. If we don't, we've said this before. If we don't fight for everybody's rights,
it's gonna trickle down and affect us eventually. Like, it's gonna come to you. It's gonna bite you in the ass just because you think it's not happening to here and to you and right now. Don't worry, it's coming.
And that's why it's so important to practice your civic duties, because if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it.
Oop. Yes, exactly. But so speaking of that, I wish you were there with me. I know. That was such a great day. But so many people, like thousands. I feel like it was like 10,000 people pulled up.
I cried.
It was amazing, just the footage to see, because I was on the ground, so I didn't like see that many people. Obviously, it was crowded in the streets, but people were just chanting and like they was just beautiful. Over the bullshit. We were over it, and it was great to see like people that
all ages,
of all ages, and in the community that it's like not usually as involved in that way. Right. So it was great to see.
I was so proud.
Yeah, me too.
And it made me just so happy, because it was like, nah. And
I pulled sorry.
No.
And I pulled up alone because that's something I believe in. It's not like I'm gonna wait for my friends to pull up to a protest. Like, nah, I believe in this, so I'm gonna pull up.
That's my bestie.
Okay. But speaking of pulling up, my first protest was actually in 2016. And I went. You actually remember that because we were partying the night before.
Oh my God.
I went out, and I literally.
The range,
bitch. Get you a bitch that can do both. Anyway, so we were at a club or some shit. I don't know. We were lit. I literally left. I got on a train to get on a bus to go to DC so I was with my school's club. Shout out to FIT, Half the Sky Club.
Oh,
aka the feminist
club.
Shout
out to FIT.
Shout out to FIT. Oh. Alumni. And what I was saying? Oh, we pulled up with Planned Parenthood, and we were protesting in front of the Supreme Court in DC, and we were basically fighting for reproductive rights, but specifically just like protection of reproductive rights in Texas. I don't live in Texas.
Isn't it crazy now? I have people in Texas
right now, right? So imagine that. Like, and by the way, we won.
Right.
They didn't pass that law, but yes, because that shit. Okay, yeah, it was lit.
I love it. I remember that made my heart so warm. I wanted to be there, but I am very grateful. Oh man. My first protest was this summer at Washington Square Park with you.
Yeah. And it's funny. So speaking of that experience as well, that was my mom's first protest in the States, because she be about that life in DR. Okay. So revolutionaries raise revolutionaries.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Anyways. I'm so gushy.
I'm ready.
Oh, you heard it here, folks. And okay.
How did she feel?
She was lit. Honestly, she was with it. Like, I was like, "Hey, mom, do you want to come?" And she's like, yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, I just met her because whatever. Like, she sees that I'm very active. How was the process
and getting ready, knowing that you were going to be with your mom?
Well,
because I remember getting ready for that protest. Like, it was very difficult for me.
I don't know. I just felt like a lot of energy coursing through myself and just like our,
in
the air.
And everything was boarded up.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot going on. I don't know if I was really processing anything. It was just like everything going through the motions.
It was tough for me because I remember writing down like the phone number to lawyers.
I did that after I got there with my.
When I was on my way, there were some kids. They looked like grade school kids, and they were writing phone numbers on each other.
That's scary. And just the idea of the possibility of going through that.
Just not only that, like, as I was getting dressed, I remember putting on layers and layers.
You know
of
when
clothing.
it hit me, I think? Okay, so my mom and I, we went and we had lunches. So we were we were also there, like, helping out the actual marchers and, like, passing out food and refreshments just to keep people going.
These are all different ways to be involved.
Right. So I think that's primarily what my mom kind of, like why she wanted to really be involved. She's so cute, right? But when we got there was people passing out free goggles, and also our friend gave us heat protecting gloves,
right, just in case we gotta, like, throw a freaking bomb back.
And there was a lot of that shit going on at that time, so I was just like, yo, she could pop off anytime, and just, like, covering our tattoos.
I remember, like, one of our friends,
it was hot as hell, like,
their mom didn't want her to be there because you know, it's you never know, it could be you. We think that these, so this is how I feel, right? Like, we're gonna be fighting this fight all of our lives because history shows that. And it's like, you can never be too content. You can never be content. Complacent. You can never think that just because you have a salary or because you have rights at this moment, that shit will not be tested and taken away. Because guess what? Women are still fighting for their reproductive rights to this day. People are still fighting for Black Lives Matter. It's like, it's a never ending fight. Yeah. So just being there, being around that energy,
because it's systematic.
Exactly. And that's why this episode is so important for us, because we care, we're affected. I remember reaching out to loved ones and telling them I love you and asking them how they felt, and just, like, really, really being so hurt, because it was like, wait, we're in a pandemic and we're still killing our people. It was just like, it's
we're fighting 2 pandemics right now.
It's fucking ridiculous. So I say all that to say, like, please don't just chuck the deuces up to this being my voice doesn't matter, my vote don't matter, like, because it's a right. There are some countries where you cannot vote. There are some countries where it is what it is. And, you know, like, we don't want to take that for granted just because we can really make life what we want it to be. And we're learning that. Yeah. We're learning that every day, how to, like, really swindle the system. It's like,
and we're teaching ourselves, because
that's what this is all about. So I don't want us to be complacent in that. And I also want us to shift our perspective and our mindset into really believing that we deserve a seat at the table, right? And one of the people that has really influenced me and made me proud is AOC.
Yeah. I feel like AOC is so impactful in the political scene because she is for the people. She's not a career politician, as we all know. She ran on a grassroots campaign and won the first primary against an incumbent for 15 years. So this man hasn't had a running mate in 14 years. Like, how is that even okay? Aren't there terms, like, I don't know. It's just like the system is so fucked up, and it's like things like that can be scuffed under the table. Like,
also, it's like, if nobody really cares to change, you know, if we don't really think about it, it's like, well, who's gonna go ahead and who's gonna do anything about it? Right. And that's funny, because that's the same energy that Trump was trying to come with, where he was like, all right, but who's gonna take me out of office though? Right. Like, who's gonna drag me out?
He really thought he was a bad bitch, sir.
It was like, all right, but who's gonna do it? And it was just like, now people were starting to think like, yo, even if we vote him out, he's really waiting, expecting for the forces to come through and, like, just drag his ass out. Like, is that what you want?
I mean, that's what he seems.
Sign up,
bitch. I already got my goggles and heat protective gloves ready.
Shout out to our friends.
But
AOC.
Yes, AOC. And, like, she knows how to appeal to different communities and people of diverse backgrounds and ages. And she makes us feel like you can do it too. Like, you can run for Congress. She was literally a bartender when she started running her campaign.
And you know, like, you don't need, we often see it as like a game that we cannot play, and it's like, who's to say you can't play this game? Like, who's to say you can't go in and shake the table?
Like, I understand that because the odds are stacked against us. Like, it's not the same. We're not starting at the same.
We're not starting with boots on our feet.
Right. We don't even have boots to strap up.
Yeah.
So yeah. So like, I understand that.
But we got feet.
But we got feet. So start running.
We got feet. I loved her impact and in the community and in Congress, because she got everybody shooketh.
Word. She really does.
Everybody shooketh. And there's we're seeing it more and more. Like, so many women started getting voted in this term, and it's just like,
yeah,
wow.
And that's not to say that we're like over here praising AOC, but like,
we're still holding her accountable.
And she's just an example,
so, because you came from the hood,
right? So there's even more expectations.
It's kind of like, you know, I get that. Even like with my own like local politicians, right? Like, yeah, I'll see them and stuff, and it's nice. But these are not idols. These are public servants. These are people that are there to represent us and to respect us and uphold those positions that we have granted them the privilege of holding.
Yes, that part. Oh, so beautifully said.
Thank you.
Okay, so
we have a call to action, and because that's what this is about. It's not just about highlighting the issues and this and that. It's all about solutions, finding a resolution, and seeing how we can actually start. You know, we want to spark that fire in each other,
like that ass up.
Yep. So I want you to choose one action from the list that we shared of 76 things you can do.
Link below.
Share it with all your loved ones, and we really, really want to know, like, what's your experience doing it, whatever it is. If you've done it before, please share. Also, challenge someone to join you. Make it a family affair.
Oh my God, let's make this a real challenge. Hashtag GH get involved, like Ready Hippie.
Get hip.
Get hip? Get hippie?
Get hip.
Hold on, let's see if it's...
Get civically hip? No. Get hip.
That's nerdy.
I know.
She said get civically hip. 72.1K, but...
People are not really saying that, though.
Hashtag get hip. Hashtag us. Hashtag get hip at Gritty Hippie. And if you're okay with us reposting, we'll do that. But we want to hear your experience on how you are active within your community.
Oh my gosh. Also, very important, like super important, sign up to your council members' newsletters.
Yes, at least one. Just one. Your local council members' newsletter. Like, whoever's you think is like...
Yeah. I'm sure you get a bunch of spam messages from, like, I don't know, these brands that you follow and stuff like
all
that.
these sales
and promotions.
Right.
It's not gonna hurt you to get another email.
Listen,
that matters, actually, that you should open.
I am signed up to Cuomo's newsletter because I need to see what that motherfucker is doing.
Right, exactly.
With my community.
Right. And also follow them on social media.
Yes, because that's the easiest thing. You're already on Twitter, on Instagram, on all these platforms. Might as well, while you're scrolling, you can see whatever your politician
You need to stay informed. Like, we can't really be like, oh, the system and the powers that be.
And
when we really don't even know what's going on. It's like we're complaining about the news, but we're not even reading the newspaper. We're, you know, like, let's fire the editors and let's get some writers in that bitch.
Or write it yourself. Bloop.
Yeah, get your own newspaper. Okay. So, I have a closing quote. And it is, and we've heard it, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. This is by a young god.
Source unknown, aka.
Yes. But again, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. You know? So I'm going to just leave it there because I could go off. Pay attention.
Moment of silence for
That's a fact.
that to integrate. That's it. Also, somebody that we want to highlight who is running for city council member in Queens. Shout out to Queens. How? Alex Riaz. He said, anger leading to action, action leading to voting, and voting leading to more action. So you don't just get angry. You let that anger fuel you and lead to action, and then voting, and then more action, because it's not just voting. There's so much more you can do and hold these people accountable.
And it's, sorry we didn't sign up for this, but this is how we got to do things in order to like not be barbarians together, because shit could be real ugly. And you know, it's just a way for everybody to really stand in their power. And if we want this just world with organization, there's just certain things we need to do, like read up and stay on point.
And not to go off on a tangent, but it's like we are immigrants, we're products of immigrants. So it's like our families came here for a better world for ourselves, right? So this is us doing our part for our future.
Right. And I am from the Dominican Republic. Like,
true.
I'm a like full immigrant. And it's like I'm educating myself on this because I live here, my family lives here, but just like I need to do this here, I need to do that back home too. And it's just like, it's levels to this, you know. And it's like, maybe you don't want to live here, right? But that means that wherever else you live, you're gonna have to do that too.
Exactly.
It's your duty through and through,
regardless. Oh well,
I'm so proud of us.
Me too. And I'm proud of you guys, because we know that our audience, you're listening to this for some reason. So this is the first step, honestly. So let this episode inspire you to do more. Please let us know what actions you take in your community. And don't forget to hashtag get hip at Gritty Hippie.
Remember that the movement goes beyond just an election, and it's our role as citizens to ensure the health of these institutions, because it trickles down to our very own health. So we love you guys.
Thanks for listening to the first episode of the new year 2021. 2021
Okay, we're so annoying, but I love us. And that was it.
And cut.